I should have known the enforcers would not tolerate me forever.
My skills they valued, but my nature they despised.
Such power!
I was a convenience. I can't control it!
And all of it asking nothing in return.
That I brought the guilty to the penitent's pyre was my reward.
Okay, there have been some awesome trailers in the run-up to Darktide, but this one was another level. I think we now know why they waited to unveil Psyker last. We're about to go full Palpatine up in this bitch, and the force powers Psychinetic can let loose in Darktide, well, they're a gigantic step forward for this franchise, both on the graphical fidelity side and from the perspective of gameplay. It's a big step up over what we had in Vermintide. This game is looking incredible. So let's talk Psyker, what's new in the trailer, and what all this new stuff will mean when we get our hands on the game next week. Now, rightly so, I think there was some hesitation after the beta from people who played Psyker, who felt like his kit was lacking variety, that it basically just revolved around head popping, which might get old pretty quick, and I think that was fair. No one could rightfully say Psyker was bad. Even with those limitations in terms of gear and loadouts, it felt extremely impactful on higher difficulties, maybe even necessary, but yeah, limited was a reasonable take. Not a lot to choose from in terms of weapons and powers, but then again, it was a beta. But the gameplay released today dispels those notions outright. We're seeing elements of multiple psychic disciplines, which is very interesting, and perhaps most importantly, we have Smite. I don't know what Fat Shark will end up calling it, but Force Lightning in the 40k universe is generally referred to as Smite. It's one of the most common and well-known psychic powers in the setting, and even though the subclass for Psyker is called Psykinetic, Smite is more often related to Biomancy, which is a separate psychic discipline, and we're seeing tons of flame spells here as well, which are typically more a pyrokinetics forte. If you've seen my Thousand Suns Lord Army and Tactics video, we talked in depth about these disciplines and how they formed into separate cults of specialists during the Great Crusade. The question is, could there potentially be some overlap between disciplines for a Psyker? Could they use spells and abilities from multiple different disciplines? And the answer is yes. Particularly amongst Alpha Plus level Psykers, which are the strongest and most dangerous warlocks in the entire galaxy, who can call upon cataclysmic forces from a wide array of tools, like city-wide mind control, or ripping a skyscraper out of its foundations, to creating tornadoes of flame able to consume an armored column of vehicles. These kinds of Psykers could potentially plunge an entire world into darkness, and even though we're nowhere near that kind of power, the techniques being demonstrated here in Darktide are no joke, and by the time you hit max level, being able to burn your way through a horde or enter the mind of an armored elite a quarter mile away from you, then burst his face from afar, it's an impressive level of control and discipline. On that sliding scale of Alpha Plus at the apex, and remember that Psykers are kind of on a logarithmic scale, so Alpha Plus could be many orders of magnitude above a low-level Alpha, and then there's Delta and Epsilon level near the bottom. I'm not sure exactly where we fit in, especially because the definitions seem to change depending which army book, edition, or Black Library novel you're reading, but the stuff shown here could easily be construed as beta or low-level alpha. So very scary and very powerful, but not like Armageddon Doombringing for a planet or anything. In terms of actual gameplay and weapon selection, kind of what we had surmised from the leaks a few weeks back. Even though the staff is only shown once in those leaks, it appears it will have many marks and variations, each with their own set of powers and abilities. So there will be the standard conflagration style staff from the beta that has a simple left click force ball and right click AoE ground explosion, but then a flamethrower staff will perform a different style of horde clear and damage over time, while the force lightning smite will target groups of more elite enemies and potentially pop their heads. There's also an updated version of Psychinetic's Wrath from the beta that was your ultimate ability. Instead of just creating a shockwave in a ball around our playable character, knocking people backwards, it now sends out a line of flame directly in front of you as well, burning enemies and debuffing them with agony and giving you a lot more range, which was maybe one of the elements that Psyker was lacking a bit in the beta. It seems there will be multiple ways for Psyker to proc agony, and stacking that up with additional burn DOTs will almost certainly be one of this class's core playstyles. More than anything, this trailer demonstrates a really effective combination of horde control, damage over time, and single target damage for armored ogrins, maulers, and specials with the head pop, which means Psyker is shaping up to be extremely versatile with a potentially very high skill cap. A character you can push very far on the higher difficulties, but one that will inherently be quite squishy and used as a backliner in most situations. Some new weapons were shown in the trailer as well. Last pistol you can kind of hold GAT style sideways, which is pretty fun. I think it's going to be a pretty fun sidearm for you to use, and the combat dagger clip is a bit funny too. I hope it will have a lot of armor-piercing single-target damage, because it will almost certainly lack much cleave for hordes, and I can see carpal tunnel being a serious issue with spam-clicking that thing over and over. Remember the dual daggers for Shade in Vermintide 2 absolutely ruined my fingers? It'll probably be the same for this thing as well, so might want to just save the horde clear for your staff, and then go in against the elites with the combat dagger if it has good AP. And it's joined by a cutlass, one of the many sword variants available in Darktide. Pretty unique animation set and combat style for that one. It'll be a head clicker, maybe a bit of AP on the charge attack as well. Very stylish. The staffs and powers are really what we're here for though, and Force Lightning was the highlight for me in this trailer. Honestly, it just makes me very curious what they'll do in the future for Psyker subclasses, because I was not expecting regular staffs to have powers that insane and visually impressive. I was thinking Smite would be more of an ultimate ability for a future subclass than its own staff type, and frankly I didn't think we'd have it in the game, and I thought most of the staffs would just be what Sienna had access to in Vermintide, right? So she had the flamethrower staff, the conflagration staff. We have elements of those here, but all of them seem to have their own unique modifications and twists. And here's a perfect example. So the flamethrower staff is burning through a horde, and it'll of course deal damage over time. But at the end of the animation, he closes his fists and activates a modifier either from his skill tree or the weapon itself that explodes the horde and sends them staggering to the ground, even controlling the big armored crusher. That is a lot of extra utility that the flamethrower staff in Vermintide 2 never had access to, and more than anything, it's just very visually impressive. I was a bit hesitant about what they were doing with the force powers in Darktide, but I am thoroughly impressed by what I saw in this trailer, and really the only thing I think Psyker might be lacking a little bit now are unique melee weapons, force weapons, like a force axe or a force Zweihander, a force staff that can actually be used in melee and not just be a little bunk on the top of their head. Those kind of things I think would be a nice addition. It's very possible they exist, we just might not have seen them yet. But yeah, having something that's a little bit more unique, specific to the Psyker on the melee front too, would be great. The one force sword is nice. We'd like to have a few more options there too, but overall, Psyker might have been the most impressive reveal of any class thus far, and frankly, that's saying a lot. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am super hyped to play this character, and Darktide shaping up real good, man. Not gonna be a perfect game, seriously doubt that, but I think there's gonna be a lot of content on offer, particularly considering it is not a full price title. So, I'll see you all in the next one.